You ever have one of those passions? Maybe it's collecting something or rereading your favorite books until the pages are worn out that you kind of just keep to yourself? We're always told to, share our gifts with the world. But today, we're going to dive into the fascinating brain science that shows why keeping a hobby private is actually a brilliant move for your own self-care.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Is there something you absolutely love to do that's just for you? There's no audience, no one's giving you feedback, there is zero pressure. If you've got something like that, you are definitely not alone. And it turns out there's a really powerful reason why we do this.
And let's be clear, this isn't about being all secretive or mysterious. It's actually about something called psychological self-preservation. It's a powerful, almost unconscious strategy your mind uses to protect itself from what researchers call constant emotional demand. It's a way to guard your energy.
So why do we need to guard our energy so carefully? Well, that leads us to a really common problem, a specific kind of exhaustion that a lot of us feel, especially if you're known as the strong one in your circle of friends or family.
It actually has a name: invisible burnout. It's that deep, bone-deep fatigue that comes from always being the person everyone else leans on. You're carrying this huge cognitive load, constantly helping other people process their lives.
What that means is your brain is just always on. It's constantly analyzing, empathizing, and solving problems for pretty much everyone else. And, over time, that is incredibly draining. It leaves very little in the tank for you.
So how in the world do you fight that? The solution is actually beautiful and simple, and it's probably hiding in plain sight. It's your private hobby. This is your brain's safe escape hatch.
See, when you sink into that hobby, you're creating a sanctuary. It's a space where you don't have to perform, you don't have to produce anything for anybody else, and you don't have to meet a single solitary expectation. It is pure, unfiltered mental rest.
Now, the science behind why that feels so restful is really cool. There's this concept called perceptual fluency, which I know sounds complicated, but it's just a scientific way of saying our brains absolutely love things that are predictable and familiar. When your brain knows what's coming, it takes almost no effort to process. And this predictability is incredibly powerful. It gives you this much-needed feeling of stability and control in what can be a really chaotic world. It can physically lower your stress levels, it soothes anxious thoughts, and maybe most important of all, it just gives your overworked brain a real break. Do any of these sound familiar? Rereading a book you've loved for years, watching a show with those characters who just feel like old friends, carefully organizing a collection? These are all perfect examples of these low-risk hobbies that give us a deep sense of comfort. But okay, here's where things take a really fascinating turn. You might think that all this solo activity would make you more withdrawn, right? But the science actually shows the complete opposite. It turns out these private hobbies help you build an incredible social superpower.
What happens is, when you get lost in these stories or characters in private, your brain is basically running social simulations. It becomes this safe, low-stakes training ground for your real-world interactions. And get this, research shows that a staggering 4 out of the 5 brain areas that are active when you're navigating a real-life social situation are also active when you're just reading a story. I mean, how wild is that? Your brain is literally practicing.
This just shows the huge gap between what's happening on the outside versus what's going on in your head. So yeah, it might look like you're just quietly sitting with a book, but what your brain is actually doing is way more complex. It's building empathy, it's understanding new perspectives, and it's learning how to regulate its own emotions. So the result of all this private practice? Well, it's very public. You actually become more empathetic, you can better see your own biases, and you even become a better team player in your actual life, all because of the time you spent alone with your hobby. But beyond just building social skills, there's a really deep emotional reason we cling to these hobbies. They're tapping into a fundamental human need for comfort and security, especially when we're feeling stressed out or the world feels uncertain. Psychologists have a great term for this. They call it a transitional object. Think about a security blanket a kid might have. It provides comfort, it's grounding. Well, your private hobby does the exact same thing for you as an adult. It's a reliable source of reassurance in a pretty unpredictable world. And the ritual itself is so simple, but it's really effective. First, you engage in that activity you love. That triggers your brain to release a little hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. And the result is you feel happy and satisfied, completely on your own terms. No outside approval needed. And by practicing this little ritual, you're not just escaping the world for a few minutes,
You're actively building up the emotional resilience you need to face it head-on when you're ready to jump back in.
So, let's kind of bring this all home. It's time to stop feeling even a little bit guilty about those hobbies you keep to yourself. We need to start seeing them for what they really are, a really smart strategy for your well-being.
I love this quote because it says it all. You're not hiding from the world. You are taking a strategic time out to recalibrate your nervous system so that you can show up as your best self when it really counts.
So the next time you feel that pull to retreat into that private world of yours, just remember that you're giving yourself a profound gift. You are choosing the deep, restorative power of stillness over the constant, relentless pressure to perform. And that is not just okay, it's incredibly smart.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's that one hobby, the one that's just for you, that brings you a sense of peace when the world gets way too loud? Whatever it is,